So I want to take a sec to talk about mistakes because over the past 3 years I've done a lot of work to undo stuff. And we've been milling for 18 years now, and the yard's messier than it should be, you know, full of more logs. And then this lumber is part of the mistakes. Basically, before you start cutting a log, unless you're just getting into it, which is what it doesn't matter, have a plan for the log. It was so easy to just cut one log and then another and then another and then another. And eventually you've got piles and piles and piles of lumber, you know, 10 piles deep that you can't even get to the stuff that's dry that you want to sell. So you don't even try because you've got more logs to cut. So you get on to the next thing. So I'm going to end up just giving away all of these older piles. And we eventually had a plan for stuff so that any waste product like this newer sawn pine here, we just give away for free. I got to get this more organized at the end of the driveway, but it's just where all of our free stuff goes. And right now there's the older stuff too that we've been trying to just nuke all the piles. But I'll have this more organized eventually, where people can just show up, grab whatever wood for projects, make raised garden beds, shed siding, whatever. And when I had more time, I've just been so busy the past few months, I was giving this away trailer loads at a time, loading people with the forklift, but haven't been mentioning it recently. And then one of my other big mistakes that I'm just finished up dealing with, I ended up tearing down a barn a few years ago, and the agreement was I wasn't charging the guy much because I'd get all the wood, but I was going to sell him a third of the wood. And so I knew I already had a third of the wood going out of there, and the deal was I'd get the chestnut and white oak, the better stuff. I'd be selling him more pine and hemlock, whatever was in the barn. But then, before we started, not long before we started, he said that actually they didn't want any of the wood. And that right away should have been a red flag that changed the agreement, because I was planning on a third of the wood already heading off, and then I'd have 2/3 of the wood and go from there. And I just didn't, but I was so busy and just younger and wasn't thinking about it. So I didn't assess that and change things. And so then I didn't have a plan for any of the wood. I was going to just de-nail it as I went along and post it on Facebook or whatever, and my wholesale buyers, and just find people that would buy the wood once I knew the quality of it all. But now I had to figure out all of it. And I had a place for the siding right away, but things fell through even more because we ended up so busy that I just couldn't say no to work. People asked, they'd come to me and say, hey, I need this done. And I'd be like, okay, how, instead of saying, do I want to solve your problem? I'd be like, how do I solve our problem? I'd make it my problem right away. So then this wood just I never had time to process it. I was learning how to cut black locust. I was learning how to mill timber frames, all piled on top of what should have been a bunch of beams getting cleaned up and sold. And now instead they're just gonna head off on a log truck sooner than later. And then we also were making hardwood stakes, and we're getting rid of all of the random wood. This will end up hopefully going to a farmer for his crates, just giving that to them for free. But the point being that this is filled up basically with my mistakes over the past 3 to 5 years, and it wasn't filled up with my decisions over the past 2 years, let's say, because I just knew when you make firewood, this stuff in the back here, you list it, you get it gone right away. Those white bags are all sawdust. I make sure that heads off. The project wood's getting a bit messy at the end of the driveway, but people know about it, they grab it for free, and it all disappears. Most I've seen here is 10 bags of sawdust at a time, and that starts to get overwhelming. But I've got a plan for it, is the point. And then all the lumber that I'm sawing, it's 1-inch pine boards, timber frame beams. It's all stuff that's gonna head off, so it all makes sense to me. So you got to think way at the beginning. Okay, what am I turning this log into, and what am I doing with the waste, and all that sort of stuff. And if things don't follow through, what am I doing with it? So what we've been doing with all of our old hardwood logs, I'm not going to just fill this whole area up with that as I mill it. Instead, because they're nice, they're new sawn material, it hasn't dried a single bit. But I know what's in there for the most part, you know, spalted maple, just random oak, cherry, beech, whatever logs I had. This year we just started donating it to every single high school wood shop we could find. And my guy that works with me, he did a really good job of it, where now, like, when a maple log like this shows up, whether there's rot or not, I've got a plan that I'll cut whatever good wood I can out of it. If I don't feel like trying to sell it on Facebook, I'm just going to put it in a pile, get it stickered, and get it to a school. I guess right now in the fall, I don't think we're doing anything over the winter. Willow has been the one weird log where I'm like, what do I do with it? But the schools can use it. It's just a weirder wood. But I can also turn it into dunnage. So I have a plan there. And then the pine, I buy most of the pine. I need it for timber frames more than anything. But over the winter, this whole area was full of hardwood. And Adam did a great job connecting with woodshop teachers and getting them to take it, where this has been flat stacked for longer than it should be, and some of it's punky. I got to go through it. It was just bad logs when I started building, but easier to get rid of boards than it is to get rid of a whole chunk of a log. This is the remainder of $20,000 worth of hardwood that we donated. So we had a plan, and in essence, I saw it, and if I'm going to use it for myself, great, I'll stack that aside. If I'm going to sell it on Facebook, I'll do that, and at worst, I give it to a school, and at worst, it gets bundled up and goes as firewood. So there's a chain of decisions there, and it's mostly time-bound. I haven't been holding myself to it right now, but when I get sick of this pile, I'm just going to throw some straps on it and put it in the firewood pile. Let my guys that want hardwood know about that. And then this would be one of the silly decisions I made that now I just got to undo it by just getting rid of it. But I decided any short boards that I milled, I'd cut 16-inch if I could for my laser engravers, because they'll fit 16-inch. But I haven't had time to stack and stick this. I'll get into it some. Whatever's blue stained is just going to get tossed. Or I'll just get rid of these piles just as is. It really doesn't matter right now. I've just been so busy. Yeah, that's overall what I've been doing.